one piece of career advice you wish someone had given you when you were first starting out?
Well, that is a great question, Amy. And I have to be honest, it made me think. And a couple of things came to my mind, but I would like to talk about the two top things that kind of kept coming back to me. One is, I would say, be your own hero. And two, I would say, nurture and build relationships, professional relationships early in your career. And I'll kind of go into a little bit of a explanation on each one of them. Starting with the second one, I would say, when you're kind of starting your career, right, you're so focused on the output. You want to do a good job, you want to deliver on time, and you want to kind of show that you're capable. And while all that is great and there's no substitute for hard work, I think what we often tend to overlook is every time you go into an organization, there are a couple of people that you will always connect with, whether it's personally or for what they do, their personality, or maybe they are where you want to be in a few years, right? But we often tend to kind of ignore those connections once we move on, our paths diverge. And what I would highly recommend is you kind of invest the time to nurture those relationships, because then when you come into a mid or late stage career, you would have a network of peers and colleagues who could be a great support system, a referral system, and guiding force. And then secondly, I think you'll also have mentors. You'll have mentors who've been there, done that, who can guide you, coach you, and kind of give you that support that you need. And that kind of goes back to my first point, be your own hero. I think, again, we are so focused on output in the early stages of our career. And we talk about our accomplishments during the annual performance review, but we're often shy about talking about what we can or cannot do. It's not about bragging, right? But I do think that we kind of wait for somebody else to be our advocate. And I would say, stop doing that. Be your own advocate, be your own hero, and showcase your talents. Talk about your skills and what you can do, and come across as this confident person without waiting for somebody else to say, oh, Priya's great or Amy's great, kind of a thing, you know? So those would be my 2 points.
Can you share a pivotal moment in your career journey that made a significant impact?
Yeah, there's also a couple of things came to my mind, but as with life, sometimes the pivotal moments come from a period of hardship or when you've gone through tough times, right? And that happened to me a couple of years back, where I was in this organization where, after being there for a little while, I realized I don't feel valued, I don't feel supported, and I didn't appreciate the culture or even the strategy of the management, and there wasn't openness or willingness to listen to new ideas, and in a way, sometimes and it kind of got toxic to the point that I felt impacted physically and mentally. And when you let something get to that point, the confidence takes a beating, right?
Yeah.
But then at some point, I realized that this is not sustainable for me, and I took a risk to go from a comfortable, cushy kind of a job to probably even a lower paying and a lower level job, but within a smaller organization. But man, that was the best decision I ever made, not only because I got away from an environment that was hurting me, but also I met some amazing people, and I had the best time learning in those few years that I was at their organization. So I think the pivotal lessons for me from that experience was, one, never let anybody or anyone define what you can or cannot do. And it's very hard, and sometimes you don't even know how it happens over time. But you kind of have to recognize that and say, and if you have a clarity of what you can do, and this is not working out, something doesn't feel right, I would say walk away, Don't wait for it to get better. And that's the mistake I did. And now I advise my kids too, like, if something doesn't feel right, walk away,
Yeah.
And then I think a second lesson from that pivotal experience was change is hard. Stepping out of your comfort zone is really, really hard, especially as you are the later stages of your career and you have responsibilities and you have financial obligations. But if it's done for the right reasons, for the right goals, and you know exactly why you're doing it, I would say the grass on the other side sometimes is green, and you should take that plunge if you're called to it.
Yeah.
So that was a very important time for me to kind of step into my own.
How do you approach challenges and setbacks in your professional life, and what's your go-to strategy for overcoming them?
Learning. But as I was thinking about this more, what is the thing that gives us almost anxiety usually, right? It's the fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, fear of being judged, or fear of not being liked. It's really just fear of so many things. And there was this quote or a definition of fear that I heard, and it's actually on my phone as a gentle reminder for me. Fear, FEAR, stands for false evidence appears real. This is the quote that somebody gave. And I'm like, that is so true. Most of the time, most of our fears are just false evidences. It's things that we make up in our mind as worst case scenarios. Now, don't get me wrong, some of those fears could possibly come true. But what then differentiates us is how we react to it, how we deal with it. Our mental strength, our resilience, and inner conviction is what helps us overcome those challenges. And we've all gone through some challenges, and we'll all probably continue to go through those challenges. And I think for me, there have been many techniques that I have learned, and some of it comes with experience. But the two that I would like to highlight is one, anytime a fearful thought or a negative situation comes into my life, my first focus is go inwards. I focus on my thoughts, because when I start spiraling into those negative thought patterns, everything becomes difficult, right? So being aware of those negative thoughts and stopping it, literally stopping it, And I have some techniques that I've kind of adopted, like mindfulness techniques, taking a walk, or listening. I've identified few podcasts that kind of give me that dose of confidence and positivity when I can't seem to find it internally. But usually just calming and controlling my thoughts does the trick, right? And the second thing I have started doing, and I used to hate it, I still kind of I love it, but journaling.
Okay.
I thought it was overrated, and I'm like, who's gonna sit and write down all of these things when it's already going in your head? But what I found is just by writing things down, it's venting. And then I'm able to, when it's on the paper, so for some reason you are and maybe it's the analyst in me, but I can discern between what is really false evidence or fears or just my worst case scenarios versus real stuff, right? And once I know that, I can start putting a plan in place, whether it's talking to somebody or gaining a new skill or putting like a small step action plan. And once I have those small steps, I can just focus on those small steps rather than the big problem, and slowly and steadily, hopefully, it doesn't become overwhelming. But those are some techniques that I have adopted to overcome challenges. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I think I would say it mostly helps a lot.